Now I'm going to bring in James because I have some questions. Uh, James, welcome back.
Thanks for
You
having
know,
me
I,
back.
hey, buddy, my first question is, do you know who was behind the move of bringing all that gold back from the UK, from London? Who
I mean,
bought it?
there's been a lot of assumptions on that. I ultimately think it was just hedge funds mainly, high net worth investors, family offices mainly that were doing
Yeah,
that. Um,
okay.
I think that's mostly what it was in terms of pushing it to the states. I think there's a longer term agenda too. I think if you're gonna build the COMEX up and make it powerful, you need to have enough bullion and reserves to kind of make sure it's not a complete paper sham. And
Yeah,
so you need to have a decent amount of bullion. And so that was a good excuse and smokescreen to do so. I mean,
yeah.
the EFP just got so large as well. I mean, it was in the interest of doing that for traders to make some money. So, shipping over planes of gold and boating silver over or what have you, however they got the silver over. There was a lot to make, to do
Yeah,
that.
well, I know in the silver that during that recent rally, they didn't have the same type of physical to cover their shorts. They went to
Yeah,
a
London is getting down to very thin layers of float. I think the last estimate I saw was 148 million ounces,
yeah.
which we don't know of that what is actually available depending on where the arbitrage is, who would be willing to lend it out at what lease rates. That
Okay,
so
so where are lease rates with the markets doing very well, especially gold, lease rates still very high?
I think the silver ones are still kind of high. I don't think the gold ones are that high. I think it's kind of died down. So I don't think the movement is happening so much on the gold and even the silver side at the moment. We're if
Okay.
anything threatening to go into backwardation. That would be the concern I would have is it reverses.
Oh,
But
in silver and gold, or which one?
eventually, in
Oh,
both, that's
okay.
ultimately when you get to a place where gold's in backwardation, Jack,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you're in
Yeah.
real trouble. That means,
Yeah.
I don't care where it's dated at. I want the gold now, and that's a scary place.
Okay. It feels scary now.
Well, I mean, I think people have got to get through their minds that $3,300 gold is actually still going to be cheap in the end. So,
Okay.
I mean, not on a short term basis. I wouldn't say like get long and trade it at 3,500, because it could go there in the short
Yeah.
term.
Right.
But I mean, in the longer term, in terms of let's talk at 2035, where's gold? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking,
Right.
2030, where's gold? I mean, we have
When's the when's the U.S. going to revalue its gold so
that's a
they
good
could sell
question.
more bonds?
I think well, to sell more bonds, I think the combination right now, right, is forcing countries in our privy under our sphere of influence to eat on 100-year duration, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they won't resent that. And then inevitably, they're going to also use stable coins. They're trying to use that Ponzi scheme to help finance the rollover of the treasury bonds and bills, and then as well, they're eventually they're going to mandate U.S. citizens do it, and banks. They're going to tell banks you have to carry a certain percentage on your books in U.S. Treasury bills and bonds, and if you can't survive, then consolidate further. That basically is a long term road I think we're headed towards.
Okay.
So the CBDC ultimately is not coming, but it'll be a stable coin market. I think is where
Okay.
we're
What is a stable coin in an unstable world?
Sure. It's this thing called Tether or USDC. There's all these
Yeah.
different ones, and no one audits them. No one knows truly what's going on in their books. So it's really a scary place. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, they'll last because they're intertwined now in the Ponzi, but they'll last as long as the Ponzi lasts, I suppose. But
Okay.
ultimately, the dollar has to run its course in terms of being devalued nominally, so we can pay off all the things coming due in terms of debt and unfunded liabilities. So,
Where would that be? Another, they have to cut it in half from here to
oh, much
50?
much
Huh?
larger. I would think when it's all said and done. I mean, if you look out 10, 15 years, I mean, you're talking another 90 some odd percent going down in terms of the dollar's purchasing power versus gold or what have you, versus anything
Okay.
of real value. So
It's kind of amazing though the shift we've had in 3 months because uh, up here when the dollar was here, everyone was talking about under parity in euro. right here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And no one thought the euro could rally. Now the boat, it's kind of on the other side.
Right.
I still think the dollar's head lower.
Yeah.
And, but I think there could be something around 96 for a bounce. Maybe
Yeah.
that
What
will
you
be,
guys showed, what you showed
yeah,
made sense. It definitely made sense.
yeah. So, it's like it was, it's a reverse or
Mhm.
inverse of what it was. So, how about this gold silver ratio? Are we distributing here? It looks like trying to top out,
Yeah.
unless we're not out of, I guess, crash mode,
Yeah.
in the
That that
S&Ps.
yeah, that is a question. Is this the top? You know, the 105 number. That's in line with the peak in 1991, which is 106.
That
And
was the other year it did that. Okay.
yeah, so if you go back and
Okay.
look really on a long-term chart, I mean, 106, and then you had the COVID 125, 126 top. What
Yeah.
generally happens when it does that and it peaks above 100 is that about 4 to 5, 6 months later, it substantially falls, right?
Yeah.
And so the question being is, are we going into like a huge recession with a big D, in terms of deflation? Are we going to have
Okay.
banks start failing? We're going to have, liquidity just completely dry up. And then the gold silver ratio could go even higher than COVID. I mean, and that's
Okay.
how silly it could get. But at that point, you're going to have a huge divergence between bullion you can actually get versus whatever they tell you gold and silver are worth on a digital page.
Okay.
So,
So here's Bank of America. So I know, because you bring it up,
mm-hmm,
you pay attention to it.
mm-hmm.
Where are you keeping, or telling clients to keep their liquid cash? Do you know safe banks or banks, or maybe that's an oxymoron, safe and a bank? Um, what do you tell them to do? Go out and buy T-bills, or do you look for a safe bank, to, you know,
Yeah, I think credit unions, places that don't have derivatives on their books, don't have more than
okay,
250,000, and and per account, split it up amongst family members if you have to, in order to keep it all in one
right,
place.
okay,
But definitely don't go beyond the FDIC limit. Yeah, Treasury bills is a place you can hide for a while. Short term bills. These are all options, of course. But I
will
mean,
there be bail-ins though? I mean, everyone feels pretty comfortable about, yeah, if it's under 250, I don't have to worry. But could there be a bail-in, and then it doesn't matter,
yeah, that's
if it's
real.
insured?
Yeah, that's a real threat in the sense that the G20 has signed on to that type of
Right.
supranational law. And so if you have the ultimate concern, the domino effect of the derivative market imploding, and then you have all these banks going down, unsecured creditor you are if you have anything in a bank. And yeah, the
Yeah.
FDIC's got your back, but how long will it take to get refunded? How long will it take to get everything fixed up? I don't know. I mean, I had to run out of my bank during the Silicon Valley bank run era, those 5 or 6 banks that failed. I had currency in the Pacific Western Bank, and I had to ACH run out of that thing
Yeah.
into a credit union I now use. And so, I mean,
Okay.
it is a real threat. It's a concern. I wouldn't have a lot sitting with any of the major derivative houses. I mean, I guess you could take the other view and be like, well, J.P. Morgan's not going anywhere because they're just too big to fail. So that's a safe place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who believe that. So, and I
Okay.
understand J.P. Morgan has a lot of nice features and bells and whistles. So I can see why people like it, using that bank.
I like Jamie Dimon's timing for selling his stock.
Yeah,
How about
yeah.
you?
No, it's
I
amazing.
mean, I was told it was done automatically, but that's why people pay attention to insider sales,
Of
and
course.
there's no bigger insider, than Jamie Dimon, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have purview into 40% of the banking establishment, and you can kind of see what's happening behind the scenes in real time, yeah, you would have a lot of information well ahead of the market. So for him to be moving off in such large size and all that stuff, it's not surprising. I mean,
You think he has inside information?
I mean, and he has
I'm
he has
kidding,
yeah, it's like
but he has some inside information on J.P. Morgan, but he actually did sell millions of shares at this high right here.
well, good for
So
him.
yeah. Anyway, pretty good sell off. Let me ask you this: most people are giving, it's been a, 20% in S&Ps, and I know this isn't exactly your bailiwick, but I know you follow it. Um, Almost 30, 40% in NASDAQ. Do you think that this market could be manipulated up through just, trade deals coming in for the next 90 days, and we could still make a new high in the
Nom
S&Ps?
a new nominal high
Yeah,
is
yeah,
possible in the sense that they could start doing, QE and start,
okay,
creating currency out of thin air, and you could literally have a new nominal high. The issue is in that scenario, I still think gold is going to be
uh,
outdoing it. If you look at like a long
sure
term,
will. Yeah,
gold and S&P chart, it's rolling over. It's looking like the rollover from the Nifty 50s, the 1960s stock bubble. I mean,
right.
it's gone down, bleeding precipitously to like 1.59 now. So it just keeps going lower, and it
Yeah,
just tells me that we're going back to 1 to 1, no matter what they do. You might have a
yeah,
nice nominal number looking in the S&P 500, and I think they have to do that. I think they have to do that not to scare people out. And the mechanics of passive investing, when that starts to sell, you
yeah.
get real waterfall effect. So you have to keep people kind of hemmed into the biggest market that the U.S. has, which is the stock market. So I think that
Okay.
it's very important for them to not only not let it crash.
Okay. So we'll see what unfolds there over the next 90 days. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any color or insight into what people were trying to describe last week in the bond market, that despite, like, great inflation news and everything, the bonds still sold off, even sold off when the market was under pressure, the
Mm-hmm.
day after there was no flight to quality. What are you hearing about treasuries?
Yeah, so I hear the scuttlebutt that China was selling, Japan is
Okay.
selling. Those are the
Okay.
two big rumors in the market, and you even seen Bloomberg terminals saying such. In terms of like small little articles and blurbs talking about how they're doing it to support the yuan. I mean, China. I'm sure at some point is going to devalue the yuan. That peg has been artificially there for so long. I mean, I would imagine that's going much higher in time because if you look at the M2 currency supply in China, it's just going up a wall. So they have a real problem internally. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all to see the yuan devalue much
Is
further.
China in enough trouble to cave if
Mm,
Trump gives them the ability to save face?
mm, you know, I think they have the manufacturing power base, right? Like they have the ability
Yeah,
to make the stuff, and we really don't. So I think they have a
right,
lot more leverage than Trump gives on. I think
right.
Trump is more smoke and mirrors and bluster versus
Okay.
what China's ready to do. China's ready to go at it. I mean, they burned the bridge. I mean, they're going for it. They're not turning
Well,
around and
well
ducking.
then, I advise everyone to get at least 3 months of their medications,
Yeah,
to have, in store in case they play that card, because
yeah. If
I
COVID
think
didn't
it's
teach
like 80, 90% of our pharmaceuticals.
if COVID
Not,
didn't teach you that, then you
yeah,
didn't learn the lesson. I mean, you have to have most important things in stockpile. That's important. Like I know it at SD Bullion, we have a complete warehouse there just built for packaging alone, just for boxes, right? I
wow,
mean, we can't have a situation where we can't get boxing. That's like it's uber
yeah.
critical to our business. So yeah, we saw the writing on the wall a long time ago and have built out planning, looking out
So,
in case that
okay,
happens again.
so you guys are going to be doing that. So your whole supply chain of shipping metals to people,
Mm-hmm.
that has to change because of this?
Not in the sense of the only way it's changed is a sense of, well, what can fail, and so we have to plan around that and build stockpiles in order for it not to, right? So we have to have boxing, we have to have room to stack that stuff, and also use it as leverage to get it at a cheaper price when we buy it in huge volumes.
Okay.
So
What do you think is going to happen to the metals when crude rallies back to $80 or so on maybe possible military action by Israel that we back
So
against Iran?
the one thing is if you have the gold and crude oil ratios rising and rising so high and vertical that it's hard to think it's not going to keep going on there. I think we're moving to a world where gold is going to start more or less being the value, the numeraire for oil. And so you could have crude oil go higher, but I think in that case, you also have gold going higher.
Okay, so they both it gives uh it's another afterburner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Okay,
mean,
so
I just
yeah,
don't, when you look at like this really long-term chart I have, I mean, it's a couple hundred years, and there's like 4 eras, 5 eras where gold just goes into a huge premium
you
over
want to
gold.
show that?
Yeah, I can show it to you in a second.
All right. Yeah,
Let
that'd
me
be
find it real
interesting
quick.
to see.
Yeah,
Then we could
one
wrap it
second.
with that.
Let me show
Yeah,
you.
we're very vulnerable to China. We know that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to take at least, 5 years to 10 years to reshore everything
yeah.
if we can, if we're still around.
1 second. This is I'm on Nick Lart's chart and it's a damn mess always. Give me
Okay.
1 minute to find it.
That's okay if you can't.
Yeah, hold on. I might be able to find it in my Twitter.
I love those macro charts.
Yeah,
Stick
they're
around
great.
for it.
Definitely great.
So, are you glad to be back in the States now with all this stuff happening, bro?
I mean,
Huh? You were up
my,
there. You
my
nothing could
time,
touch you where you were, except
my
the
time.
volcano. Huh?
Well, I looked around there and I know that internally I kind of understood after living there for a while, they had their problems too. And if
Yeah.
problems get bad enough, then I'm just, gringo whitey and I become a target too. So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
I tell you what, especially not being an American now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's another good point.
you can be blamed or scapegoated for virtually anything, right? If we have a
Yeah.
dollar, situation where things go real wrong, and all of a sudden they start pointing at me like it's my fault. So you have to be
Yeah.
careful with that.
Yeah. It's already like that in Mexico.
So
Gringo go home.
I found it here. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
Okay. I see
Can you see my
your
screen?
name. I don't see the chart yet.
Okay, let me pull up my screen here. All
There it
right.
is. Crude
Can you see
versus
it?
gold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me try and get bigger.
So everyone, while James is doing this, follow him because he posts stuff like this at James Henry and AND. Um,
So you
and
see, like on the long term,
yeah,
we're spiking over 40, and every time that's happened, I mean, you go through mega spikes. You go
yeah,
through eras, and this is back in the Great Depression. This is back in the golden age that Trump loves. This is COVID.
yeah,
You have a situation now where it looks like, well, the system's changing or something's going on radical.
yeah,
And so the
yeah.
idea that crude oil is going to outperform gold, I don't see that now that we've gone on this mega run vertical. I think
Okay.
things are really changing underneath.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so that's the point.
I,
It's like,
yeah, I'm just looking for like a counter trend. It's
mm-hmm.
very underowned right now, oil.
Yeah,
You look at hardly anyone's long on the specs on
mm-hmm.
the CFTC commitment of
Mm-hmm.
traders. It's gone nowhere. It's been
Mm-hmm.
quiet. It had a
Mm-hmm.
breakdown that didn't work. So
So
that's enough for me to try it.
is
Huh?
everyone been thinking, the Trump administration wants oil cheap right now? Or are they thinking, that's they're going
Yeah,
to keep?
that's it too.
Yeah,
So, that's
right.
another reason not for people to have that sentiment.
I
But
get
when you
it.
think about it, the oil companies don't want to drill because prices are too cheap. It would
Yeah.
almost be, even though people will complain about it, if he wants oil companies to drill, he needs to get prices up for them
Yeah.
to uh, and them to believe they're going to stay up for a while to get
Mm-hmm.
drill. They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
do it down here.
Right.
Anyway, really great to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah.
And guys, if you're interested in having physical and adding on dips and building and stacking, consider giving James a call. Maybe contact him through, his X account and uh, your spreads. Let me ask you this: has retail been going crazy over the
Yeah.
last month or so? Has it been real busy for you?
It has gotten, in there's been random spikes depending on if we, for instance, when gold went below 3,000, silver went below 30, there was a large volume of buying. Those are the
Right.
more of the more
Okay.
intelligent, longer term stackers. But then also there's the
Okay.
FOMO trade. Like yesterday with
Yeah.
gold floating higher, there was a
Yeah.
lot of influx of buying because people thought it was running away from them. So we have it
Yeah.
both ways. And
Okay.
ultimately, if you're in this market and you're looking to get positioned, I think you got to wait for this interim top for gold, and then the revisit back down. I think is coming for the 200-day. I think we're going to have one more dip below 3,000 for it's
Yeah.
maybe
I
this
do
summer
too,
coming up.
James.
Yeah.
2,700 or so.
Yep, I think so. And that is usually the sign. When that happens and it bounces and then we go beyond 3,000, we're probably not going back again. And then
No.
you at that point as well, and historically the gold silver ratio starts tightening. So we probably have one more deflationary thing that's going to occur here. And we may go higher in the gold silver ratio, but that will be the final spike, and then we'll probably roll over and start
Yeah,
coming
are
down.
people complaining
Oh yeah.
the silver longs, oh, I should have gotten out at 37 or
The manic depression is
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Depending on the day, it depends on whether or not they're in manic mode or they're in depression mode. And the gold silver ratio above 100 generally means we're in depression mode.
Yeah.
Once it starts to roll over, then they'll get real annoying on X and go into manic mode. So you'll
Okay.
see
You
all
know what? I
flavors.
found one stat that you would find amazing
Hmm.
because I know how you feel about miners. They've had a pretty good run, but
Hmm.
the silver, not the gold miners, the
Hmm.
silver miners index is beginning to has turned just like gold did against the Dow and other indices a while ago. The
Hmm.
silver miners have turned against
Yeah.
stocks.
Recently, there has been a good pop, and I mean, on this long-term chart, there are always a couple, durations.
Yeah, yeah,
Seriously, in like the last 18 years, there's been three of them, and they've lasted
okay,
a combined 3 years roughly. When you
yeah,
add up miners and gold outperforming gold bullion, and
yeah.
then for the 15 other years, they've not. And I think ultimately you'll, yeah. So like, sorry. I mean, you can
Great,
okay.
huh?
You
Last
can.
March was good, but anyway, the bounce they had from the crash low on many of
Yeah,
these, James, have been huge.
I
But
know.
I think there's one hurrah left in the miners if we can have a melt up with with the Fed pumping and take the S&Ps to 7,000.
Hmm.
These silver miners are going to be the top performers.
Yeah, no, I
So,
agree. You need to, if you're going to be in that game, have a certain percentage of it in there, swing trade it and scalp it and take
well, you know
profits.
how much I like leverage, bro. I
Hmm.
find 3-time levered um, ETFs
Hmm.
on different assets and instruments,
ADQ and silver is a good one.
and
Yeah,
then I buy options on those.
that's even more degenerate. I like it.
All right, buddy. Have a great Easter, James. I'll be talking to you this summer.
Hmm.
Some real great looks. Everyone follow James if I mean, you got see, and how he can just give you the answers and make you think about what you might be getting emotional about, like silver stocks and you know how people have suffered with it. That's why I think that they're going to go because I think people have
Hmm.
surrendered. Even gold and silver bulls hate the miners. So anyway, James, have a great weekend.
You too,
You
Joe.
were
Happy Easter,
right.
man.
The Masters was hard to chill during the
Hmm.
Masters,
That
especially
was that was a
the
good roller
last round.
coaster ride, man. That was
It
fun.
reminded me of my trading.
Yep,
Rory's last round.
totally.
Um, all right, my friend. Follow
All right, bud.
James Henry Anderson at James Henry and check out his spreads and what he's doing for your physical purchases. And that's a wrap, everyone. Don't just count your coins and your bars and whatever else it comes in. Count your blessings. Thank you, James. There's SBX and XAL. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's good talking to you, Dale. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. All right, James. That's a wrap, everyone. Have a good Easter. Remember, you know, you too can have a resurrection in your career. Okay. In fact, if you don't believe that, because you're going to have to get off the mat, all the greats blew out. So It's called perseverance. And I'm still persevering. So you guys could do it too. All right. Have a great weekend, Warriors. Adios. Thanks again, James.
Thank you, Dale.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.